Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we'll have a look at the latest from the live radar, run for the UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days. So it is going to be turning very volatile in terms of temperatures, going from very cold over the next few days to actually potentially very warm as we head into next week. Now we have had strong signal for south to southwesterly winds arriving next week, but we were very uncertain whether it would be more high pressure dominated, more low pressure dominated, or a bit of a battleground. Now at the moment it still does look like it will be a battleground, at least in the west, but for eastern areas it actually is looking like temperatures will climb quite significantly, looking like it's going to be mid-teens for all, maybe even high teens, and you can't even rule out the isolated 20 degrees somewhere around London. So very volatile over the next sort of 5 days or so. Got frost coming in the next couple of days, and I said 20 degrees as possible as we head into next week. We'll be able to look at that in detail in the longer range charts as well, as that sort of warmer southerly or southwesterly wind looks like it could dominate much of the middle to second half of October, where again we do look pretty likely to be seeing those west to southwesterly flows. Some runs, even like the eastern ref, actually get a proper air of high pressure building in. If that happens, then actually it could be settled and fairly mild or warm for all. Now of course we are heading into the sort of middle part of autumn, slowly descending towards winter time. Of course we'll have the hour change coming soon, so it is going to become more and more difficult to see anything that warm. But for the time of year, it looks like the second half of October at the moment looks fairly mild indeed. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now if you start on the live radar, you can see it is fairly dry at the moment. Some heavier showers across northern Scotland, but as expected with a northerly flow being closer to the source of moisture out in the Atlantic. But for most it's dry, all because we've got that very cold air now with us. It is dry with low dew points, meaning showers are not as widespread and more exclusive towards coastal areas. But of course, with that drier air now, we are seeing clearer skies and those temperatures falling away quite significantly overnight, potentially into Friday morning. Could see a frost in many areas, especially rural areas, maybe not towns and cities, but rural areas definitely down towards freezing, and that could continue over the next couple of nights. Another night, Saturday potentially, of interest, where we again could see quite a harsh frost, especially in northern areas. Now recording this around 8 PM in the evening, and you can already see those temperatures are dropping away significantly in the north and the west. Of course, colder air had arrived here earlier in the day, whereas only really got to parts of southern and eastern England through sort of the early afternoon, as we did see some heavier rain as low pressure and the remnants of milder air did clear away. But for all now, much fresher, and for all are going to feel that the brunt of the cold into tomorrow morning. Again, potentially even hat and gloves weather tomorrow, as we do see a frost, and you can already see temperatures over the Highlands of Scotland, much northern England, higher ground of Wales, Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland, dropping down to the low to single digits, if not freezing. Areas further south and eastwards across England, definitely colder, but not especially cold yet. But by the morning, potentially down towards 1 or 2. And definitely in the next couple of nights. Now, if we go over to the latest UKV, if we start on the precipitation over the next 5 days, you can see over the rest of the next couple of days it's actually fairly dry. Yes, some showers and maybe some more persistent rain in for parts of northern Scotland, being closer to the Atlantic, more moisture, potentially a few areas of instability moving in, some rain and maybe a little bit of snow. But for most it's fairly dry through Friday, apart from those northern and western portions of Scotland, maybe just about Northern Ireland as well. Now into Saturday, more persistent precipitation arrives for much of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Again, starts to pep up and move further inland and further southwards, and again just showing the slow transition to something potentially slightly milder once again. The reason for this is because we have got a sort of wedge of milder air between the colder air masses, and that slight change in temperature is allowing this very small feature to develop, and that's what's giving this heavier rain. As you can see, this rain eventually clears to the east through Saturday, and it opens the door to another blast of northerly wind. So some slightly milder air moving in for a time, probably won't make too much of a difference, maybe a couple of degrees there through into Saturday, but for most turning much colder into Sunday once again, for eventually by Sunday evening into Monday we're back to a westerly. So very up and down, I said, very volatile. Now as we head into early next week, you see weather fronts trying to push in, but they're coming up against higher pressure to our east, and what that means is weather fronts, cloud and rain tries to push in, but as it heads eastwards, it dies out and kind of disintegrates away. And by Monday, look at that, fairly dry indeed as high pressure is building in. And with a southerly flow, it's actually very warm. As I said, we'll have a look at those temperatures in a minute, but yeah, very warm potentially. The caveat though is as we head into Tuesday, we've got very warm air pushing in, but instability in the west, and that could trigger some big, heavy, thundery showers, and that's exactly what you can see here. If we look at the upper air temperatures, you can see it goes from very cold through Saturday, especially in northern areas. Look at that, -5 degree isotherm pushing in, very cold, maybe in the -7 degree, for eventually milder air, warmer air pushing in for Monday and Tuesday. Look at that, 13 or 14 degrees in the southeast. That would produce temperatures in the high 20s about 2 months ago, but no, being October now, not going to produce those sort of temperatures, but still very warm. It's that humidity and that warmth that is going to fuel those showers. You can see even quite a bit of Cape out to out west, and you can see so with the precipitation it is going to be potentially very lively indeed. Now if you do look at the max temperatures, you can see as we head into Friday, temperatures widely dropping down close to freezing, potentially below freezing in many northern areas and western areas, maybe only 4 to 6 degrees in towns and cities. So again, it's very variable, and it will depend on cloud amounts as well. Through Friday afternoon, really quite poor. Most areas maybe 8 to 11 degrees, maybe just about 12 or 13 in the southeast. And again, that doesn't even factor in the wind chill, which will make it feel single digits for all. As we head into Saturday, a slightly milder night, and that's because cloud is building in with that more persistent rain in the north. And then as we head into Saturday afternoon, you can see because of that slightly milder wedge of air, it's maybe 14 or 15 degrees across the south. Still feeling cold, but slightly milder. Very cold across Scotland though, as that cold air is pushing back in. And you can see as we head into Sunday, this is where we could see a very cold night, especially for Northern England and Scotland, widely below freezing, potentially down to low single digits again for much of England and Wales. Again, will vary depending on cloud amounts. And you can see by Sunday afternoon, very chilly for all. Most areas not getting into the double digits, 6 to 8 degrees. So by far the coldest day that we've had all autumn, coming potentially on Sunday. Still subject to some alterations, some changes depending on timings, depending on exact air masses. But at the moment, looking very cold there on Sunday. Recovery into Monday, potentially no frosts for most on Monday morning, but still maybe across Scotland. And then into Monday afternoon, look at that, 17, 18 degrees by the afternoon. And by Tuesday, 18 or 19. And that's where we could potentially even see a 20 degrees as we see that very mild air pushing up from the south. Again, I'll continue to caveat though, thunderstorms could be a feature if we do see that instability move in. Still a lot of uncertainty about the east-west divide between high pressure and lower pressure. Now, if you move over to the latest GFS, you can see at the moment northerly winds pushing in, and that is going to continue over the next couple of days. Brief break there as we head into Saturday with that small little feature developing with a slight milder slot. It's this sort of pattern that can produce quite significant snow during winter, but of course we're still in October, so the air masses aren't cold enough for that. But that's why we're seeing very cold air, slightly milder air into Saturday, and then very cold air again for Sunday. You can see though, as we head into next week, a westerly flow does return for a time into Monday, but eventually high pressure builds to our east and it forces up a southerly wind, and this is where we see the battle between high pressure to our east and low pressure to our west. Low pressure could win out at times, but definitely a very strong signal for high pressure to try and hold on and eventually battle that low pressure away. So yeah, it could toy between low pressure, high pressure, but generally out to 384 hours, we do eventually see high pressure winning, and you see air masses are actually not too bad. So a big battle going on, but the overall outlook is for fairly warm, or at least mild conditions to prevail for much of the next couple of weeks, which again is a real positive, especially into the middle of next week. That is a very mild air mass for the time of year pushing in. You can see again upper air temperatures maybe 8 to 10 degrees above average. Now, if you look at the latest GM, again, northerly winds continue over the next couple of days. Very cold indeed. Eventually, westerly winds progress, and then we see a southerly into next week. Very warm, especially Tuesday, Wednesday into Thursday. But again, lower pressure trying to nudge in, and it could turn it more unstable later on in the week. And again, we continue this battle with big low pressure to our west, big high pressure to our east, and you can see a direct southerly, cold air trying to nudge in, milder, drier air trying to come in off the near continent. As I said, a big battle going on. And if you look at the precipitation, you can see the battle. Lots of rain out to our west, bone dry to our east, and you can see it is just going to be, as I said, a big battle between those. At the moment, it looks like, from the GM at least, the weather front will be fairly stationary across the middle of the country. But again, small alterations can make a big difference with that. And again, it will make a big difference to the temperatures as well. As you see here, mid to high teens in the east, be cooler further westward. So again, we'll have to wait and see with that. And then finally, if we compare to the latest ECMWF, again, low pressure continues coming in from the north, cold over the next couple of days. Eventually, westerly flow returns into early next week, and then we see that tilt to a southerly, and then again, a battle between low pressure to our west, high pressure to our east. It does look like low pressure does briefly nudge in, but high pressure eventually wins out, and towards day 10, high pressure is actually extending over the top of us with a very warm air mass indeed. And that actually looks like we could see temperatures well in excess of mid-teens once again, and not just exclusively for southern England, could develop more widely. Maybe not northern Scotland, again slightly colder here, but for most of England, Wales, Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland, and maybe southern Scotland, would be very mild indeed. Now, if you finish by looking at the ensembles, you can see this is well reflected within the model output. We go from very cold conditions at the moment, almost 10 degrees below average, around the -3 to -4 degree isotherm. We go from there all the way to the +12 degree isotherm, potentially into early next week in 3, 4, 5 days' time. So yeah, a good 15 to 20 degree temperature swing, and it is a gradual swing through the weekend into early next week. Yeah, the only negative of warmer conditions next week, as I said, is we are going to see precipitation. So we're kind of trading the dry conditions we have at the moment for those warmer conditions, but also getting a lot of rain with that as well. Again, we're looking at London here, further west, the rain will be higher, and you can see the longer term prospects for much of the rest of October for generally above average temperatures, which again is a pretty good thing. You can see pressure is a lot of up and down, a lot of oscillations, especially next week, which again I think is all due to that east-west battle between high pressure, low pressure. And if we look at the 2 meter temperatures again, mostly pretty warm into next week, or at least warm for the time of year, mid to high teens. And then if we said finally compared to the latest ECMWF, again, broadly very similar, turning much colder at the moment and continuing over the weekend, and then much milder next week with some big precipitation spikes appearing even from the operational and the control runs, indicating that the risk of substantial rain does increase next week. So yeah, it is looking warmer, it's looking a lot milder, but I'm not saying it's going to be dry at all at this stage. It could be 20 degrees in the Far East, but the rest of the country could be under very heavy, thundery rain. So we'll have to wait and see, but it does definitely look like now we've got those temperatures sorted. It's going to be going from very cold to very warm. It's just all about the pressure and whether it will be a rainy warmth or will it be a drier warmth. At the moment, I would probably sway towards more of a rainy warmth, especially in the west, maybe drier in the east, but we'll still have to wait another couple of days to verify that. So as I said, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.